Andrey and Klymentiy Sheptytsky were two brothers who both stood firm in the face of persecution, becoming heroic examples of Catholic courage and promoting a sense of Ukrainian national identity. They were the children of Jan Kanty Sheptytsky and his wife Sofia. Jan Kanty was a rich count and landowner known for his faith and his intellect. Sofia was a poetess and a painter who was also known for her strong faith. Andrey was the eldest of their children who survived to adulthood. He was born in 1865. Jan Kanty and Sofia had 4 more surviving sons. Andrey would become the Greek Catholic Metropolitan Archbishop of Lviv, Alexander would become a landowner, Leon would become an amateur archaeologist, Stanislav would become a general in the Polish army, and Klymentiy would become a priest and a martyr. The Sheptytsky family were a Polish family of Ruthenian origin. The extended family included bishops in both the Latin Rite and the Eastern Rite. The Sheptytsky brothers grew up in the Latin Rite, but Andrey and Klymentiy would both join the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church as adults. The brothers grew up in a newly built home in prelate. Their mother Sofia said, "Let our children remember that this house, which has just been finished with such labor, will sooner perish and be destroyed at that moment than when it should become the abode of sin. Sooner death than sin. May the grace of God forever engrave this in the hearts of my most beloved children." At university, Andrey initially studied law. When he was 22, he visited Russia, and this was when he started to nurture a lifelong dream to see the Russian Orthodox Church reunited with the Catholic Church. This dream influenced his decision to become an Eastern Rite Catholic. He joined a Basilian monastery and began studying the Ukrainian language. He was ordained when he was 27, and he became a professor of theology at the Basilian Seminary. It was here that he founded the Studite order in an attempt to restore Byzantine traditions within the Ukrainian Church. In the meantime, Klymentiy was studying law in universities across Europe, eventually receiving his doctorate. Klymentiy became a politician, and he was elected to the Austrian parliament in 1900. He became a member of the National Council, but he withdrew from politics in 1907 when that council was dissolved. While Klymentiy served on the National Council, Andrey was serving as a secret counselor to the government too. He was made a bishop in 1899, and in 1901 he was appointed Metropolitan of Galicia and the Archbishop of Lviv. In one of his first pastoral letters, he said, "I am Ukrainian from my grandfather and great-grandfather, and our church and our holy ritual I love with all my heart, devoting to the Lord's affair my whole life. So I know that in this regard I could not be foreign to people who have given their heart and soul for the same cause." In 1907, Pope Pius X made Andrey responsible for supporting Russian Catholics. Andrey took multiple secret trips into the Russian Empire, where he ordained bishops and priests. He supported the Ukrainian national movement, helping to found a seminary, hospital, and schools in Ukrainian territory. He also toured the United States and Canada, visiting Ukrainian Greek Catholic communities there and attending a Eucharistic Congress in Montreal. While Andrey was returning from North America, Klymentiy was experiencing a call to the priesthood and the monastic life himself. In 1911, he entered a Latin Rite monastery, but he later transferred to the Studite monastery that had been founded by his brother years earlier. Klymentiy was ordained when he was 45. The year was 1915, in the middle of the First World War. The war was a tumultuous time for the brothers. Andrey was arrested by Russian authorities at the beginning of the war and deported to Russia. He was released after the Russian Revolution. Throughout the 1920s and the 1930s, the brothers worked together to promote the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. Klymentiy eventually moved to Lviv to support Andrey as Andrey's health declined. In 1939, the Soviet Union invaded and occupied the area. Andrey did his best to defend church authority and to oppose Soviet persecution. He was a major thorn in the Soviet side, and they wanted to hurt him in some way. According to Father Sebastian Dimitruk, the Soviets were so afraid of Andrey Sheptytsky that they did not move him. They believed that he was sick and immobile and that he would soon die. They wanted to hurt him, to make him suffer, by destroying his family and the place dear to him, where he was born, where he spent his childhood and youth, where he celebrated his first liturgy as a priest, where he decided to become a monk and to dedicate himself to God. In August 1939, all 5 Sheptytsky brothers gathered together at the family home in Probyci to celebrate Alexander's birthday in one of their last happy moments together. On September 17, 1939, Andrey appointed Klymentiy as the Exarch of Russian Greek Catholics. Less than 10 days later, Soviet soldiers surrounded the family home at Probyci. Only Leon and his wife Jadwiga were at the estate when the soldiers arrived. They were interrogated, and it was decided that Leon would be killed. Jadwiga said, "I go where my husband goes," so they killed her as well. A priest who had been visiting the estate, Father Marius Skibnevsky, was killed by the soldiers too. The other Sheptytsky brothers tried to visit Probyci after the murders, but they were prevented from doing so by the Soviets. The Soviets planted mines across the estate and destroyed the family home and the family tomb. Less than a year later, Alexander would be arrested by the Gestapo. He was a prefect of the Society of Mary and was rounded up as one of the victims of the Nazi persecution of Polish intellectuals. He was forced to run until he died of a heart attack in 1940 at the age of 73. Alexander's son-in-law, Blessed Stanislav Kostka-Starowiecki, would be killed in a concentration camp the following year. Despite these tragedies, when the German army invaded Lviv in 1941, Andrey initially was optimistic that Soviet persecution would come to an end. He became disgusted with Nazi policies, however, and he wrote letters to Heinrich Himmler protesting the Holocaust in Ukraine. Horrified by the massacre of Jewish civilians, Andrey and Klymentiy worked together to save the lives of Jewish children, hiding them in monasteries. They were aided in their efforts by Blessed Omelian Kovch, who would be caught and murdered in a concentration camp in 1944. By the latter part of the war, Andrey's health had declined drastically and he could no longer walk. He died on November 1, 1944, at the age of 79. In the years following Andrey's death, Klymentiy became one of the highest-ranking clergymen left in the Eastern Territories. The Soviet army regained control of the region in 1944 and systematically arrested and in some cases murdered Catholic clergy. Klymentiy became an informal leader of the remaining clergy. He met with priests and monks and provided them with advice and strengthened their resolve. In 1947, Klymentiy wrote a letter to the Vatican describing the ways in which the Greek Catholics were being persecuted in the USSR. This letter was intercepted by the authorities. Klymentiy was then arrested. The Soviets demanded that he renounce the Catholic faith and become Orthodox, but he refused. He was subject to long interrogations, torture, and beatings. After a trial, he was sentenced to 8 years in a labor camp. He would spend most of his imprisonment in a medical building, his health greatly impacted by the brutal treatment that he had received. Though he was suffering, he maintained a warm disposition and always treated fellow prisoners with kindness. One of his fellow prisoners said, "He reminded me of St. Nicholas. We never expected such a rascal in our room. Some sisters had passed 3 apples to him, real rosy, red and ripe, and he gave 1 apple to Roman Novosad, who often had stomach problems. He said, 'You need to take care of your stomach,' and the others he divided among us." Exhausted by ill treatment, Klymentiy died on May 1, 1951 at the age of 81. He was the only surviving brother at the time of his death. Stanislav, who had become the head of the Polish Red Cross, had died the previous year. The legacy of the Sheptytsky brothers is one of bravery and defense of both religious and national identity. According to Yaroslav Pelikan, arguably, Metropolitan Andrey Sheptytsky was the most influential figure in the entire history of the Ukrainian Church in the 20th century. Klymentiy was beatified in 2001. His feast day is May 1st. Andrey was declared venerable in 2015. In 2024, the city of Chervonograd was renamed Sheptytsky in his honor. According to Miroslav Marinovich, the spiritual inheritance of the Sheptytsky brothers alone, Andrey and Klymentiy, is sufficient to reveal to the contemporary person all the beauty and the love of humanity.